Hello, I've been asked to make a quick video on how to start the July Birthstone bookmark. So this is the bookmark when it's finished, and I have the prick in here. Now there is just one difference with this bookmark. Normally you work your bookmark from the top point down to the bottom, but this one is done more like an oblong. So you come down this side, around the bottom, back up to the other side, and then back across to the start, and that's where you then sew in all your pairs. So let's see, have a look at this. You need 8 pairs and then extra one for each of these red dots on each side for the fans, and that's just so it has the coloured worker running down the side. So the dots are, there's a green one here and then there's red ones here, and on this particular pattern you hang 2 pairs on the green pin and 1 on each of the red. And I will just mention these pins here, they're a turquoise blue, and I will show you how to do those, but they're there so that you actually make a big loop, and then when you come back round again you're going to sew into them when you're on this side. So I'm going to start by hanging 2 pairs. Now I have used scrap thread just to show you this, so don't think this is the amount of thread that's needed for all of the pricking. It's not, it's just literally I had some spare threads over and I've just used them to show you how to start. So I've got my 2 pairs hung open. Now when I say open, it means that I have made 2 pairs made up of 1 pair from each pair. So you can see there's my blue one and there's my yellow one. Now if you were asked to put them side by side like this, you would end up with 1 pair that moves like that and 1 pair that moves like that, and what you would end up with are 2 loops, 2 separate loops here. But because we're coming back around and we're sewing in to this point here with 2 pairs, we want a single loop. We don't want two pair loops to sew 1 pair into each, because what happens here is this becomes a solid line, a single line, so we want to continue that single line here. So that's why we hang them open. So I've hung my pairs open. I'm going to put 2 twists on them and then I'm going to close it with a half stitch, and you'll see by doing the half stitch I've got my worker pair back together. Now this trail here is worked in half stitch, and half stitch you will have a 1 bobbin that is the worker that goes backwards and forwards, providing you put an extra twist on each end. So I will show you that as we're going down, but I've closed it with a half stitch, and the way we're going is from this pin here to this pin here. So what you do then is you just put another pin in, because we've worked a stitch already. We've closed 1 pin, but we've also done the stitch for the start of the next pin, and now I'm going to close that with a half stitch. So you can see now this bobbin here is the one that is going to be continuously my worker. Now the reason I do that is because half stitch doesn't tension up very quickly, but if you use the same worker bobbin it tensions up quicker than if you keep changing your worker bobbin. So I'm going to put a support pin in. Now I don't like my support pin to be over here because that's quite a long distance. At the same time, I wouldn't advise putting your support pin in any of your pinholes that you've pricked. I always tend to put my support pin in where you know there shouldn't be a pinhole. So I have put my support pin in this trail because you wouldn't normally find a pinhole in the middle of a trail. I'm then going to hang my next pair on, and I'm going to half stitch through. Then this end pair I'm going to put an extra twist on, because that will then bring my worker back in as my worker. So I'm now going to go back through these pairs to the end, put another twist on and pin up. I'm then going to go back through my pairs. I'm going to take this pair off of that support pin, go through this one, hang another pair on my support pin, another half stitch, and then twist and pin up. So I'm now going to go back through just 2 pairs because I want to leave 1 pair off for this fan. So I've gone through 2 pairs, extra twist, and my worker is back as the worker. So I'm going to back across. I can take this pair off. So you can see I'm using the same support pin in exactly the same place. So I'm half stitch through, extra twist, and pin up. So back through 2 pairs because we're leaving 1 pair off here and 1 pair off there. Extra twist on your worker to bring your worker bobbin back in, back through, take off that support pin, half stitch, extra twist, and your worker's back again. Oh, so back through 2, extra twist, pin up, so now I'm adding my last pair here. This time I'm going to go all the way across, but I can't do this pin until I've done my fan. So I'm just going to go and do my fan. I will remove that support pin because the chances are you might forget to do that. Right, so this is the point where you're going to add in another pair, which is going to become just the coloured thread down the edge. So if I bring the picture back, can you see there's a coloured thread that just runs singly down? So I'm going to cross stitch and twist through that pair. But I always put 2 twists on my worker pairs, so I've got 1 twist for my cross stitch and twist. I'm going to put another one on, and then I'm going to pin up in that pinhole. So I'm going to cross stitch and twist back through that new pair and release it from the support pin. So now I'm going to go through 2 pairs. Now this fan is slightly different to some other fans because you're going to have all the pairs in right from the start. So I'm just going to cross stitch through 2 pairs. The other thing that you are using is this pin here is being used more than once. So I'm going to do cross stitch through, and I'm just going to pin up. I'm just going to stand these ones up a little bit more. So then I'm going to cross stitch back through 2, put a twist on my worker because it's been through cloth stitch, so I want a cloth stitch and twist edge, because the cloth stitch and twist edge is what gives you this hole, this gap. So whenever you put a twist on a pair, it's always going to leave a hole for you. So I've twisted my worker, just once will be enough, and then I'm going to work cross stitch and twist both pairs and then put an extra twist on my worker. So cross stitch and twist, cross stitch through 2, then I'm going to lift up my worker and just carry it around that pin, cross stitch back through 2, again twist your worker, cross stitching and twisting through 1. So I'm cross stitching and twisting through the first pair, cross stitching through 2, lifting up my worker pair, taking it around that pin, and then cross stitching back through 2 pairs. Then once I'm ready to work this edge pair again, I'll put another twist on and cross stitch and twist, and then close that, as we're now finished our little fan, and close that with a cross stitch and twist. Now these 2 here will go into these 2 positions, so you need to remember to put a twist on them because they're transitioning from one area to the next. If you didn't put the twist on, you would end up with 2 lines, and we want 1 line. So I'm going to move all of those over, and now I can go back to my worker, and I can now, just going to lengthen my pairs a bit, I can now take in this pair from my fan. So I'm half stitching, because I'm back to half stitch for my trail, twisting my worker, pin up, back through all my pairs. And what you need to remember this time is that on this side we're now leaving them out. So I'm putting an extra twist on that pair, pin up, back through, taking the next pair, extra twist, and there we go. Back to the other side in the half stitch, remembering that we're taking a pair out, extra twist. Now you can see a lot of blue in this because the blue is the worker, but I do find when you do it like that with for your half stitch, it does mean that you see any errors fairly quickly. So that's my 3 pairs left out, and now I'm over here at my honeycomb. So this is the point where all you're going to do with this pin here is literally loop the thread around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put I've got 1 twist on there, I'm going to put a couple more on, so it's got 3 in total. I'm going to then put my pin in to the left of the pair, and I'm going to tension that pair up so that what you do is you push all those twists behind this pin. I'm then going to put 3 more on, and now this pair here is going to work this pin. This pinhole you've just done here, this turquoise one, is going to remain fairly open until you come around here and make a sewing in that loop, and that's the point where you'll be closing that pin. So don't panic at that point because this pinhole isn't finished. It won't be finished until you come back around and sew into it. Now we've got a honeycomb stitch here. Honeycomb is half stitch, twist, pin, half stitch, twist. So there's your half stitch, twist both pairs, once, pin up and close with a half stitch twist. Now that twist is really important because there's a larger gap than, because you're missing a pinhole here. Normally you would have a pinhole here, but we don't have that in Honeycomb, so that is why you have to put the extra twist on. So now I'm just taking this pair in, so I've done my half stitch, there's my twist, pin up, close with a half stitch twist. Now this pair here, you're probably wondering, how am I going to work this pinhole here? Well, with Honeycomb, you can't really see it with this one, but you have a row where every pin is worked down in a straight line, and then you have other rows, the next rows, where they're worked alternately. So I need to work these two together, and I've drawn the lines on so it makes it easier for you to see where the pairs are going. And I'm still doing my half stitch twist because I'm still within my honeycomb. So this one is pair's going to go out here, this pair is going to go out here, and this pair here is going to have another 2 twists put on it. You're going to put the pin in the pinhole, tension up the twists, put another 3 twists on, and it will then be ready to go in on this pin here. So you can now go back to your half stitch trail. So you've now done 1 repeat of the work. So everything that's in here you've now done once, other than obviously sewing in. But when you get round to here, it's going to be so simple because that loop is really big. It's lovely. And when you come to doing the turning the corners, so to speak, you will have 1 pair leaving off of every pinhole and 2 on this one, and that'll be the point where each one can then go into the next pinhole, turn your pillow 90 degrees and carry on down that way. So hopefully that's given you an idea on how to start your July birthstone bookmark.